Hey guys, welcome to another behind the scenes video where I'm going to show you how I'm going to turn this vase into a piece of art. So let's get started. Hi everyone, Kim Dell here with Kim Dell Artistic Photography, and I'm going to show you a behind the scenes of how I'm going to turn this vase into a piece of art. Many of you know that I've been starting to get into still life and fine art, product photography, things like that. So during this shutdown, I've really started to love doing still life, fine art type photography. So of course I'm going around my home going, what can I photograph next, right? And I love the idea of taking ordinary objects and turning them into a still life, fine art photography. So I'm going to work on turning this vase into a fine art piece. And the thing I love about this vase is a kind of a little bit of story. So when we were still able to do cruises, I went on a cruise several years ago, probably around 2010, 2011, something like that. And the cruise went to the Caribbean, typical Caribbean cruise, and we went to Honduras. And we went to off the actual touristy part of the property and there was a big kind of flea market going on past the gate, if you know. So, but they had these wonderful vendors, and this is actually a handmade piece that is made from 5 different types of wood. So you can see it's all these different kinds of wood, handmade, put together, sanded, polished, and just absolutely beautiful. I love this piece, and I really am glad that I ended up buying it. So one of the things I was thinking about for this is like, it's one thing, traditional still life is like you put the piece there, put some stuff around it maybe, or you just shoot it by itself, background, beautiful lighting, and that's it. But for me, I like telling the story a bit more of still life. I want there to be something besides just the vase. So for me, my idea is to tell the story of its creation and how it came out of some chaos. So what I thought I would do is I have some wood shavings here that actually a friend of mine is a woodworker. And it was funny, I messaged her on Facebook and I said, hey, do you by chance have any wood shavings you don't need? And I'm sure she's going, what? Why? And so I kind of explained what I was doing, and she's like, sure, how much do you need? And I'm like, a couple handfuls. She's like, is this enough? And I'm like, perfect. So the idea being is I'm going to put these kind of around the vase. I have some crumpled up sandpaper and kind of a polishing cloth. And I'm going to put these together to show this piece of beautiful handcrafted art piece, in essence, coming out of all this chaos and leftovers and the things that helped create it. So it kind of helps tell the story of how it was made and the workmanship that went into it and its final creation. Maybe a little philosophical, who knows? But that's what I'm going to attempt to do today. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is what we've got set up so far. So as you can see, we have the vase, and then we have this kind of polishing cloth and the sandpaper. But then I felt like it needed some tools, but I don't really have any wood carving tools. So I figured, well, a brush, and then that's actually a little screwdriver, but not that you can really tell, but it's the base part of this is kind of antique-y enough that it looks kind of old and woodworked. And then I actually have 2 hammers, but you don't really use a hammer in woodworking, but I liked the antiqueness of the handle and then maybe a little bit of metal, so I threw it in there just to kind of give it some some interest. So this is what we've got set up right now. I have this white background, but we're not going to keep that white. We're going to try and make it like about gray so I can change the background in post. And then my camera is set up here. So the next thing, now that I've got my setup done, I have my camera where I want it. The next thing I got to do is set up my lighting. Okay, so now you can see I have my light set up. And what this is a Godox. It looks like a softbox, but it's actually an umbrella inside. It opens like an umbrella, but it works like a softbox. So I kind of like it. I have my speed light inside of there. Now it's just a matter of adjusting the light, putting it where I'm going to get the best reflections and lighting. I want to get some wraparound lighting. Be turning off some of the ambient lights in here. And then it's just a matter of setting it up and start taking some shots. So I've got myself set up and let's see what we've got. I'm not gonna lie, it actually isn't bad. Wow, I'm not gonna lie. That is quite beautiful. I think it might be just a tad high and we might need to up it a little bit. We might need to move it a little bit away from the background. But boy, what a great start. I'm sorry, but wow. It's truly beautiful and it's very close to the way I want it to look. So it's just minor tweaks at this point. Okay, so I moved my light a little towards me. I'm trying to get the edge of the light to be on the edge of my subject to try and get some wraparound. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to do a reflector on the other side, but I moved that a little forward. I also want to try to get some of the light off the background because I want the background to be more gray because I'm going to be replacing the background with an image in post. All right. Okay, so my reflection, the only thing I'm not liking, I'll be honest, the reflection is now moving to the front and I don't like that. So I'm getting the lighting around the front that I like, but I don't have that edge light. So what I might do, but I love the lighting on the background. So what I may do, move the light back a little bit to try to get that edge light that I want. But I also I really like the lighting on the background right now. So what I could do is move everything further away from the background. Then I can move my light back and still get the same type of color, the same lighting in the background. Because right now the background is like perfect. It's exactly what I want. Power-wise, I'm liking it. The exposure I think is beautiful. The shadow on the right side is really gorgeous. Just a hint of fill with a card I think will be all I need, but I'm going to wait and do that at the very end because I want to get that highlight and the background the way that I want it. Okay, so I had to move everything back and I now have, what I've also added is this here was a reflector to reflect back. So what I'm going to do now is, because I pretty much have what I want for the shot itself in the lighting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move my light back again and I'm going to just try and see if I can get a little bit more of that edge light. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take my speed light out of the softbox and I'm going to bounce it up into my ceilings because I have relatively short ceilings. They're only about 8 feet and they're white. And I'm really trying to get a light around the rim, top rim of the vase. So I'm going to attempt to bump that into the ceiling and see what kind of result I get as far as our rim light. And in all honesty, I don't need the whole rim lit, just pretty much the back side, because when I bring the background in post, I want to make sure that the vase stands out from that background. There's at least some kind of separation. And if it's too dark, it may fade into the background. So we don't want that. I want it to make sure that it's standing out because that's the star of the piece. So that's what we're off to next. Like that. I really like the light, the way it's hitting, but I may have to do a composite, which is fine. It's no big deal. I've done them before. That's very common these days. So the next thing I want to do is I want to try and bounce the flash off the ceiling, see what kind of rim light I can get. Okay, so as you saw, what I did was I took my flash and handheld it behind my scrim. But because the reason I wanted to do that is I wanted to hold it above but kind of down at an angle. I tried shooting up to the ceiling, but the light just didn't hit right. It wasn't hitting at all, and I would have had to up my power, and I just didn't really want to do that. I tried doing it directly down. That was ugly as, you know what. So I tried putting it at an angle to the, angle to the vase, putting the scrim in front of it, and that actually gave me a really nice highlight. Now, it did give me a very sharp, bright spot inside the inner part of the vase, but that I'll have to take out in post, which shouldn't be that big of a deal, especially since it's on the top, it's in the back. I'm pretty sure I can blend it pretty good. So I think the shooting part of this is done. Now it's to do post. So I hope you found this video helpful. I also hope if you're someone who is a fan of still life and fine art and you want to learn more about me as a photographer and about how I make my art, maybe you've learned a little bit behind the scenes of how I actually made this piece. And this actually will be up for sale in my store once the final piece is done. So I will leave the link in the description below so you can check it out and get a copy of it for yourself if you so desire. And if you're a photographer watching this, trying to learn still life and fine art photography, by no means am I an expert. This is a new genre for me that I'm just experimenting with. And if you're someone who's truly into doing fine art and still life and whatnot, the best advice I can give you is just start. Just start, because if you don't start kind of practicing, testing, see what works, see what doesn't, obviously learn what you can. Having obviously your fundamentals of photography is very important. I also am building a class to teach that. I will leave the link in the description below for the classes that I am building. If you're interested in learning photography, especially if you're new to photography, it is a beginner's class. But I just want to show you kind of a behind the scenes of what I am doing to create my fine art. I absolutely love the idea of building a story and kind of, finding out what props, what lighting, what I'm going to do with it, and then doing all the work in post and getting those final touches on it. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you want to learn more about myself or my photography, visit my website, link in the description. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'd greatly appreciate it. Subscribe if you're not already. And hopefully I will see you in the very next video where I will do another behind the scenes of either still life or a product photography shoot. I hope you have a great one.